We are only a few days out now from the final Smash character being revealed. Nearly 3 years after its release, and Smash Ultimate is finally coming to an end. It's sad, but it's also sweet, and I'm excited to see how they decide to close it out. So, ladies and gentlefolk, sit back, relax, because I'm Oso Generic, and for the last time in a while, let's get right into it, shall we? Let's start by talking about the 3 most recent leaks to grab folks' attentions. And first up is the Rapping Mario leak. Boy, I don't like this leak at all. It was made back in January of this year and did manage to guess that we'd get fighters announced in February and at E3, which is honestly an extremely easy thing to guess. But also it did manage to guess that Pyro and Mythra and Kazuya would be our fighters. Kind of, through vague wording. But then it also goes on to guess the final characters from a Capcom game that doesn't involve action, and that there would be a bonus Zelda character. They say there will be no third pass, but there will be a playful statement about random content drops including Waluigi and Fortnite as playable characters. But all of that just reads like a hopeful wish list more than an actual leak. I mean, random content drops after the bonus fighter? That's just not how game development works. And these Sakurai Presents videos are made like 2 months before the reveal at most. How does this leaker know Sakurai is going to make a playful statement for something 8 months down the line? Malarkey, all of it. Throw this leak in the garbage. This just goes to show you folks that if you make any vague statement, it'll probably come true somehow, and schmucks like me will review it in their YouTube videos. The next leak has already been proven to be fake, but I want to talk about it just so you know it's fake in case you see it on Twitter. Supposedly after the recent Direct, the website page for Challenger Pack 11 updated to include a Bethesda trademark, which was then quickly removed. This actually happened once before to leak Terry early, but this time around we know that it's not real. It's still possible we get Doom Guy or whoever, but this leak means nothing. And now the leak that has everyone's feathers ruffled, regarding Sora from Kingdom Hearts. This one came out on the 30th of July, and it states that a guy who works at Disney Music received a call the week before from Nintendo regarding Kingdom Hearts music being used in a digital presentation on October 5th, the date of our final Smash reveal. Pretty damning evidence, I will admit. However, it's not without its flaws, and honestly, it hasn't convinced me. First off, it's a 4chan text post. An infinite amount of monkeys on an infinite amount of typewriters will eventually guess when the next Smash presentation is. That's how the saying goes, right? Point is, we've seen 4chan text posts get stuff correct before, but we've seen a lot end up being nothing as well. One correct guess doesn't make a leak, it just makes it something we should keep in mind. However, what gets me is that another 4chan text post was made on the 22nd of September, only a few hours after Nintendo announced the Direct for the 23rd. This leak said the exact same thing, that Nintendo paid Disney Music for some Kingdom Hearts tracks for a digital presentation, only this time they changed their story to fit the date of the upcoming Direct instead of claiming it would be in October. While you could argue that this person has accurate info on the Kingdom Hearts music but not the date and second guess themselves, I think it's far more likely that this is just a fake leaker who didn't realize how lucky they'd have gotten with their first guess and changed their story to fit the September Direct, since no one was really expecting Nintendo to make an announcement of the final Smash character. To me, this leak seems dead in the water as a result, which is kind of really funny, since if they just stuck to their guns here, almost everyone would be convinced this was real. Moving away from leaks now though, let's talk about why I just don't think Sora is likely as a character. I know at least one person probably watching this is a big fan of Sora, so I'm sorry to do it, but I just think Sora has a lot going against him here. And it's pretty much because Kingdom Hearts exists in such a weird spot in Smash speculation. The Smash developers seem to have 2 really big nails they like to hit on the head when it comes to newcomers. They must be a video game character, and they should be represented well. And also, they should be fun, but that's not really relevant here. Sora and Kingdom Hearts just cannot hit both of those nails at the same time. One has to be compromised for the other to be done well. Kingdom Hearts as a series came about from the wacky thought of, what if we included Disney characters in the ridiculous storyline of a Final Fantasy game? Disney is an integral part of Kingdom Hearts' identity, and none of the worlds Sora travels to in-game are actual video game worlds. Even Wreck-It Ralph is technically a movie IP, not a video game one. If you want to represent Kingdom Hearts well in Smash, you need to have Disney in some notable fashion. You could get away with not having Toy Story or Frozen or Star Wars when they eventually add that, but Donald, Goofy, and King Mickey? These characters are super important to Kingdom Hearts as a franchise, but to include them would be to open the Pandora's box for non-video game characters. If Goofy and Donald can be a part of Sora's final Smash, why can't Goku finally have the chance to duke it out with Mario? Why can't SpongeBob or Naruto Naruto. If Pokemon can't even get a mere reference of Ash in Smash's 20-year history, I can't see them deciding to let Donald and Goofy through. You either drop the video game exclusivity rule to represent Kingdom Hearts how it should be repped, or you drop the representation to let Kingdom Hearts be half-assed, but keep Smash how it's always been. I'm not satisfied with either solution, and I don't think Sakurai or the Smash team would be either. However, I think this problem doesn't apply to Sora as a Mii costume. I think he's a fantastic candidate for a Mii sword fighter, since it would be just him and no extra Kingdom Hearts representation. Although you could also have a Spirit event featuring original characters like Roxas and Kairi and Xehanort. And now to disappoint the other guy watching my videos. Last week in my short, panicked, last-minute prediction video, I said that the Nagobino from Shin Megami Tensei 5 was my lock-in answer, but I'm not so confident anymore. Initially, I thought he'd be a shoo-in, given how suspect it was that Shin Megami Tensei had no representation in Smash despite Joker and Persona being present already. Not even a Jack Frost cameo when he's like Atlas's Pikachu. But watching that direct made me realize something. Nintendo really hasn't advertised Shin Megami Tensei 5 all that much. Despite the game coming out in just over a month now, it was only a sizzle reel mention in the direct. You'd think if they were about to slap the Nagobino into Smash, they'd have prepared something a little bit more to remind viewers of him, even if it was a reused trailer, but no, we got next to nothing. Also, the timeline on the Nagobino is a bit off. As I just said, the game is coming out in just over a month. We know Sakurai's had early access to unreleased content to develop Smash fighters before, but they were all released into Smash after their home game came out. Assuming Challenger Pack 11 comes out within 2 weeks of the Sakurai Presents, the Nagobino would still release before Shin Megami Tensei 5 does. I think SMT 5 is probably in the same position as ARMS and Xenoblade were with the base game of Ultimate, where they're definitely no-brainers for inclusion, but they just missed the mark. But now, the character everyone's just kind of admitted defeat to. An 8th generation Pokemon. To a lot of people, this is a realistic ending, and honestly, I kind of agree with that. Smash has a bit of a history of ending on characters far less exciting than the ones before them, and compared to the likes of Sephiroth and Steve, an 8th generation Pokemon would definitely be disappointing. However, I am not convinced, as once upon a time, as in the final months of 2019, we received a series of Spirit events. Resident Evil, Astral Chain, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Looking at the development timeline of Ultimate, this would have been right around the time that the Smash team would be finalizing the roster of the second Fighter Pass, and since this time, we haven't had quite the dramatic series of Spirit events. I think this is because these 3 franchises were all in heavy consideration for a new fighter in the second Fighter Pass, but they were all left on the cutting room floor to receive only a Spirit events as a consolation prize. I know Spirit events won't convince most, but the timing on this is pretty damning, at least to me. I am not at all expecting a Pokemon, even if it's a Pokemon that wasn't in this specific Spirit event. Also, don't most of the Generation 8 Pokemon just feel like boring picks, even for Pokemon? If we got like Garchomp, or Snorlax, or Maractus, I'd be excited because those are fairly unique. But most of these new ones in Generation 8 feel like they don't do anything new. Rillaboom could have a rhythm thing going, but he'd just be Donkey Kong with a drum, which is already Donkey Kong. Cinderace would just be another fiery rushdown character like Captain Falcon, but with Wii Fit Trainers volleyball. And Inteleon would be just another sneaky water lizard, but they'd be far more campy than Greninja since it's a long-range sniper. The only really good ideas I've seen for a Generation 8 Pokemon would be Dragapult or one of the legendary dogs, but I'm still not really crazy on either of them. Actually, I did see this one great idea for a moveset concept a while ago for Shifu. You should go watch that. Plus, while it's not impossible, wouldn't it be extremely bold of Nintendo to have half of their second wave of DLC be first parties? Like, surely they'd realize how that might backfire, especially after the Byleth temper tantrums. But now let's get a bit more positive and talk about characters I won't shoot down, starting with Capcom. I've seen the consensus that Capcom wouldn't get a fighter since we've gotten so much content from them in recent times, between the Aegis Mii wave being all Capcom stuff and Kazuya coming with Dante as well. However, I think they've been counted out a bit too early, entirely because of this new Mii theme. See, the latest wave to come with Kazuya followed the theme of fan favoritism. Characters that are heavily requested but who didn't make the cut for whatever reason. Essentially, they're consolation prizes to dedicated fans. Chances are, they continued this theme for the finale of the Mii costumes, so that means that the final fighter was from Capcom, the costumes they'd normally release with them have to go elsewhere. And Pyra and Mythra were a great character to drop them with. But Mii costumes not deconfirming a character doesn't actually mean they're any more likely. What I think makes a Capcom character more likely is just the fact that Capcom kind of feels overdue for a new fighter. Capcom is one of the few third-party publishers with a presence in Smash who has gotten very little since Ultimate's announcement, with only an Echo fighter, so it would be kind of fitting if they finally got another character. But who would we get? Well, there are two major standout candidates to me, and the first is Phoenix Wright. Phoenix has had a big fan following in Smash speculation for a while now, but on top of that, he hits an archetype that debatably hasn't really been explored in Smash yet, which is a Jar Jar Binks type character who stumbles their way through the battlefield and somehow does well. Overall, Phoenix has been talked about for so long in Smash speculation that I think he'd definitely be on Sakurai's radar. However, the gal I think is more likely is Chun-Li. Sephiroth shows us that Nintendo doesn't mind going to the same series twice for big characters, and Chun-Li is certainly a big character. She's been in so many crossovers now with Ryu, and honestly, she feels kind of like she's missing from the Smash roster, at least in my opinion. But that's crazy, right? They surely wouldn't do two fighting game characters back to back, would they? They've never used this same genre of game twice in a row with different fighters. Also, if you look at the pattern of Fighter Pass 2, most of these characters seem to be filling in the gaps that arguably should have been filled sooner. Min Min and the Aegis are both from first-party games that would have gotten base game slots if Ultimate came out later. Steve was in talks for supposedly 5 years before his reveal. Tekken was considered for a fighter slot since Bandai Namco started helping with Smash back in Smash 4, and while Sephiroth has a bit of a weaker connection admittedly, he appeared on the list of 7 names Square and Nintendo were throwing around leading up to Hero's reveal, meaning he likely was in the cards for Nintendo before he was actually put in. Plus, his Smash slot is well deserved, and he finally brought Final Fantasy content that was sorely missing. While we don't have any concrete evidence that suggests Chun-Li is missing, she definitely would fill the same role as Sephiroth in being an icon who was overshadowed by someone else in their series and thus didn't get the Smash invite. Before we move on to my wildcard pick though, quick shout out to Amaterasu. If I could choose any Capcom character, I would choose her, but alas. If you've been following me for some time now, first off, thank you, that means a lot. But second off, you'll know my most wanted newcomer is Halo's own Master Chief. Now when Steve was announced, I lost all hope for Master Chief, I'll admit it, because they'd never go to the same company twice in one stretch of development, right? Well, I'm not sure why we actually think that. I mean, it just seems like another pattern that's waiting to be smashed. Smash loves smashing patterns. Sure, it hasn't technically happened for DLC yet, but I don't see why they wouldn't do it. Why limit yourself to just one character per company when you could make even more money off of that company? And when Steve didn't show up with a Master Chief Mii Gunner, I began to think, hey, maybe he still has a shot. And so I've recently tricked myself into thinking he does have a shot again. So let me trick you now too. Before we address why he's likely, I want to talk about what little he has going against him, and that's this tweet that popped up at E3 regarding Chief, from 343 Industries' own community manager, Brian Gerard, or Sketch. In it, Brian Gerard claims that he hasn't heard anything about Chief in Smash, but he urges people to politely remind Nintendo and Xbox that it's something we want. Now, it's never a good sign when someone from a developer says their character isn't joining Smash, although it has happened before, but I would also like to refer you to a Reddit post from the same Mr. Gerard where he states that such info would be above his pay grade, which makes a lot of sense given the fact that he's just a community manager and not a top-level executive or even a developer working directly on Halo. As the community manager, Mr. Gerard would likely have to know a fair good few days before that Chief was coming to Smash, but since Chief obviously wasn't our E3 reveal, he wouldn't know about it just yet. So this tweet doesn't mean anything now. If he says anything again in the days leading up to October 5th, we can go from there. But for now, we're in the clear. And now, Vergaben. God, I can't wait to stop talking about Vergaben when this is all over. For those of you who care about Smash speculation enough to watch this video but somehow don't know who Vergaben is, here's a list of all the things he got right as a leaker and a list of the things he got wrong. He's only gotten the when of characters wrong and not the who yet. On the day of Nintendo's E3 presentation this year, he said that Chief would be the next fighter, but of course, that wasn't true. However, this is actually a point in Chief's favor, since it means Verg's Nintendo source was hearing Chief at all. So that's not as much of a detractor as it may seem, even if Vergaben has cut ties with his source since then. But let's get the leak speak out of the way and let's talk about facts and logic, damn it. While it's not hard to believe that Nintendo of Japan would probably have little interest in Chief as a character, Microsoft and Xbox would very much be interested in Smash. Of course, on its own, that means very little. Almost every game developer would be interested in a Smash slot, it's free advertising. But it's no secret that Xbox lost the last generation of gaming hard, and now they're making big moves to end up in the race once more. One thing that would definitely help them there is establishing themselves in Japan, even a little, since they're kind of a meme over there. And Smash is a ridiculously good platform to help them with that. so gunning for a slot for Chief would be an excellent play. While Microsoft isn't special in wanting their poster boy in Smash, they are special in that they have the potential leverage to make it a reality. Remember last year when they shelled out $7.5 billion to corner the market on Western RPGs by buying Bethesda? If you told me Square Enix or Bandai Namco paid Nintendo to get their characters into Smash, I would laugh at you. But I absolutely could see it happening with Microsoft and Chief, and I couldn't see Nintendo saying no to free money. But that's not the bit that convinces me. What convinces me is that Microsoft somehow lucked out and has ownership of two of the biggest Smash inclusions ever, Banjo and Steve. Banjo has been in the minds of Smash fans ever since Smash 64 over 20 years ago, and that popularity undoubtedly got recognized by Nintendo with the Smash Ballot. And then there's Steve. Minecraft is one of the biggest games of all time despite not being around that long, and Nintendo was supposedly hounding after Steve since before Smash 4 even finished its DLC cycle. Both of these characters were only included in the last 2 years, at which point negotiations had to be constantly ongoing, and during all of which time, Microsoft would be able to play hardball over Chief. You want the bear and the block? You gotta take the boy. But it's not like Nintendo would be 100% disinterested in Chief if it weren't for Microsoft's prodding. Even if he's not big in Japan anymore, he's still an international face of gaming and the face of one of its most consistent and popular genres. Even if interest wanes in Japan, he'd sell well nearly everywhere else. Plus, we're not even taking into account how much Nintendo and Xbox love working together. From being some of the first companies to implement crossplay before that was a popular thing, to of course the inclusion of Banjo and Steve in Smash. Would it really be that crazy an idea that Nintendo would have a fair amount of interest in Chief, especially if we do end up getting the Master Chief Collection on the Switch? And on top of that, we already know that Nintendo and Xbox have something planned for this fall. Whatever that is, wasn't revealed in the recent Direct alongside Seth Rogen. So is it possible that this collaboration is in fact Chief and Smash? I think it's possible. Master Chief may not be my safe pick, but god damn it, he still has a chance. But now, before we go, let's talk about Miis. We know they're probably going to be fan favorites, so we can actually take a crack at guessing these. Now, of course, we're assuming that the characters I'm about to list here aren't the fighter, so keep that in mind. For brawlers, I think Phoenix Wright, Rayman, and Crash Bandicoot would be awesome candidates, especially if they made the Crash Mii look like the classic commercial mascot. For gunners, I think in the event that Chief isn't a fighter, he'll definitely be a Mii. Aside from him though, there's also Doom's Doom Guy and Fortnite's Jonesy. And then for sword fighters, I do think Sora has a good chance if he's not the fighter, as well as 2B, Ryu Hayabusa, and the indie icon Shovel Knight. As a last note that I doubt will happen, I kind of hope that this fighter presentation starts with the Mii costumes like Sephiroth's did, because I think it would be really funny to deconfirm a bunch of characters before we even know who the fighter is. Imagine the cruel heartbreak of seeing your favorite thrown out of the running before they reveal Challenger Pack 11 as Gex. It'll be like the Grinch leak all over again. But for possibly the last time in a while, that's all for this video. If you liked it, make sure to vote the like button under this video as your most wanted Smash newcomer, and leave a comment down below telling me who you really want. And of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can catch my future videos, since I'll still be putting out content even if Smash Ultimate is done. That's all for now, I'm also Generic, and I'll catch you next time.